In another dream recently, I encountered a robot world, and typical of most species, they whiled away the time by destroying each other. They rather reminded me of Zoids, those old toys that were robot creatures locked into a perpetual war with each other. Makes you wonder where those Zoids ideas came from. Maybe insight gleaned from actual worlds where this is so. Or maybe more subliminal programming, as everything goes into the subconscious, and unless consciously and through awareness regulating what is being received, people can be programmed to unconsciously and consciously agree to these concepts, and ultimately pave the way for future lifetimes in such worlds. And how much further might it go, as people continue to allow themselves to be ever more restricted, as they agree to the diminishing limitation of that which they are provided? Might they become even less than a robot, maybe degraduating from human to animated robots to inanimate robotic vehicles, maybe a refrigerator, a future smart appliance, a position they have chosen for themselves through their choices and now find themselves inhabiting. So what if people end up in virtual realities within the Matrix, and potentially then could another life level be formed? In that case, they would have 6 physical life levels and 6 vehicles, and if their focus was on the lowest life level, this constructed new virtual reality, then not only would the 4 life levels be running amok, but the physical life level vehicle too, as they would have released control of it also, as they are no longer aware of it. The physical level, then, could be a part of the real side, and we could all have dreams where not only are we on the astral or wherever, but on the physical too. Although, if we assumed a robotic vehicle of this nature, after passing over and returning into such a world, that would be still the physical, just a very distorted version of it, more distorted than it is now at any rate. The only way then another artificial life level could be tacked onto the current 5 and nestle beneath the physical is if individuals were placed in this new pseudo life level while still being on the physical. In other words, having not passed over. Assuming the physical vehicles were not plugged in and immobilized like in the Matrix, maybe this might be so. The physical vehicles wandering around aimlessly, perhaps due to microchips in their brains, which has the individual locked into a virtual world while the physical vehicle drifts about. Maybe this is what the zombie movies suggest. Everyone accepting microchips, finding themselves in a virtual reality, and then their physical bodies drift about and deteriorate. And as I was saying, if then, due to no awareness, the individuals are no longer exercising control over their physical bodies, the focus now would be on this newly created virtual addition to the psych realm levels. Then their physical level vehicles may be as rampant as they appear to be on the other life levels, running about and eating and killing people, just as depicted in the zombie movies. This reminds me a little of that book, Red Dwarf, Better Than Life, where people lock themselves into a computer simulation while their physical bodies starve and deteriorate, and their friends have to feed their bodies to prevent them from expiring, while the oblivious individual whose dishevelled body it is having its thrills in this virtual game. Perhaps we are already seeing the beginning of this. Well, in fact we are. People completely switched off and glued to the cell phones and their computer interactions, that they are more removed than present, the focus gone from the physical vehicles, and just enough focus that they can walk and function, almost as though, yes, they are virtually already in these other worlds and dimensions that these cell phones and games provide, their physical vehicles almost like shells. You see all the kids lined up and standing by their friends, but not interacting with them verbally, but through their cell phones. Try conversing with someone glued to a game or a cell phone. A futile exercise indeed. You will receive just automatic and programmed responses. Nothing creative or inventively original will leave their lips, if anything at all. You're lucky if you get a nod or a grunt of acknowledgement. I wonder how much further it will go before everyone does become robotized. They refer to this as the singularity, which is the merging of man and machine. But until we reach that point, it will be fascinating to observe the decline from conscious physical level beings into the slow descent toward this new virtual, potentially sixth life level existence. Perhaps the focus will decline so much that the physical level vehicles will start acting sporadically, more impulsively. Already we see how violence and aggressive inclinations are increasing. Perhaps this is in part due to the disconnect from the physical, the focus becoming gradually more in these virtual cyberspace dimensional worlds. It will be interesting to see what happens when 5G is activated, as it feeds into all the technology the human race is addicted to. I suspect that if people have by and large chosen this path, then when all the funny little nanoparticles activate, when the 5G goes live, this is how they will be robotized. For we already have nanos in our systems, through the food we eat, the vaccination we take, and the chemtrail-laden air we breathe. And it has been proven how not only do these nanos exist, but they seem to be activated through the microwave frequencies that the cell phones emit. And the stronger the frequency, the more they are animated. Speculation, then, that this is the means of robotization. The 5G activates, the nanos are kicked into action, and the humans who have agreed to all this becomes so, cause and effect at work, and the nanos transform them into cyborgs. They become locked into a new virtual reality, while still in the physical level effectively. So then they may have their virtual new sixth level inside their heads. Instead of looking at a computer screen, they are immersed in one, contained in their very biomechanical vehicles. And so, as biomechanicals, their bodies are less likely to deteriorate like a zombie might, as the nanos are self-replicating and most likely able to repair and recreate damaged body parts or failing, malnourished organs. And then you may have the physical level as life level number 2, with most individuals having no focus upon it, as they are locked in the new life level number 1, and thus their physical robotic vehicles run rampant and do whatever they want. And so maybe the dream in which I saw these robots killing each other was along these lines. The robot vehicles now unleashed and out of control, and they do what they desire, seemingly to destroy and maim each other in that case. I suppose while playing in your new virtual level world, and suddenly the game ends, and you pass onto the astral for the reincarnational cycle, it's because your physical life level vehicle was smashed to bits by another, if you were in that world at least. A little like how we have the astral, and all agreements result in tap lines that can cause cancers and illnesses. The issues formed on the astral, which translate as cancers on the physical. In this scenario, then, the physical damage sustained on the physical life level translates as distortions to the virtual game an individual would be locked into on this new created life level. So it's a similar concept to astral tap lines and physical cancers. So an individual may experience anything from a damaged virtual reality world, the severity of it depending on the harm sustained to the physical robotic vehicle by another, that they are oblivious to having it completely destroyed if their physical vehicles are utterly wrecked. Their physical vehicle is then rendered incapable of sustaining this virtual reality due to the damage incurred, and then, with a vehicle no longer viable, the individual passes onto their next position. That is assuming they even can. When a biological vehicle ceases to function, the individual automatically departs it. Would a mechanical one be the same? At what point is a robot deemed no longer a suitable vehicle to house an individual? I suppose when it is completely destroyed and depleted of power. But imagine if your robot body was destroyed to the point it was considered dealt with by an enemy robot, but you still had enough power that, even though rendered useless and immobile, it was still the vehicle you must remain inhabiting. You could be stuck in a broken heap of junk for 1,000,000 years. Maybe a guide would come to the rescue, but then you'd have to agree and recognize and accept the offered assistance. And then, in this new life level, you would still pass over to the astral, because if your robotic life level robot was destroyed, that made it so that you must pass over. You'd depart this newly created virtual level, and the physical level where your destroyed physical vehicle resided, and go straight to the astral. probably more confused than ever before, not knowing where you are, what's going on, and imagine the lords of karma trying to figure out where you go next. Presumably in the created virtual world, you are not exactly causing harm to anybody, as it is a virtual world, so you wouldn't be racking up cause and effect karma. But then the entire simulation, that is the psych realm, is a virtual training simulation. So you're not actually harming anybody, really, but it is set up as a cause and effect simulator. Irrespective of what you do, good, bad, or indifferent, if you are not standing real with the ears and the guides, then you have karmic cause and effect with everything you do, feel, think, and decide upon. So it is what you cause that affects your next life position, if the lords of karma are making this determination. And they will, without the true light, real connection to the is. Also the severity of your deeds, particularly if they are suppressing others, restricting and diminishing them from their awareness, will result in more dire life positions for yourself. And before that life position earned, you may spend a large quantity of time in a kind of prison incarceration, as this is the fate that awaits those of an especially grand scale, awareness constricting of others' inclination and bent. Such individuals may be in this imprisoned state for thousands of years, for them anyway, until released finally, and placed in a terrible position with extreme circumstances to endure, due to the karma they brought upon themselves. So, therefore, if a new life level, as described, was created and made real, then the ears may have to extend cause and effect to encompass it too. It would be included in the psych realms, cause and effect laws exacted, and become established as part of the whole matrix, until such time as the matrix implodes, because if things become constricted to that extent that an entire new and even more limited positional life level was made a reality, then surely things would continue even more so down the implosion route. As awareness generally is reflected in creation, as awareness is diminished and constricted, it is mirrored in creation through the ever-encroaching darkness and black holes that are swallowing up everything. Eventually, to continue down this path will have everything swallowed up, and it will implode due to cause and effect choices that are self-limiting and awareness constricting. And then the ears must reconstitute the creational matrix and reboot it. And so perhaps that would be how people would escape from a nightmarish robotic hell in a virtual reality life level that became an agreed upon addition to the life levels currently occupying. But they'd still be at whatever level of awareness they were prior to all of this, and maybe they would go down the same path again, and end up ultimately in the same predicament, unless they make better life choices that only through awareness will be so.